Alright guys, welcome back, or welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Unlucky, or whatever you prefer, Unlucky Craft, Unlucky whatever. Either way, this is basically a requested video. I got a lot of requests over my last couple streams, or over the last stream, to do a tutorial on locking. Locking your rod to stop bigger fish. So, what I mean by that is basically like, I'm not going to be covering beluga today, because that's a whole different thing, but catfish, I don't have a trophy, but I've spent plenty of time on them. I've spent plenty of time locking them. I used to target them only, and easturge. Right now, easturge are running horribly, so odds are I'm not going to be able to show that off. And so there's two types of locking here. You have locking on spinning rods, and you have locking on bottom rods, right? So bottom rods like a TI or a Sage or a Fortuna. The concept all works the same. You point your rod straight at the fish, take all the pressure off your rod, and it all goes to your reel. But that's for another video. Today we are focusing specifically on spinning setups or casting setups. So let's go into the tackle shop here. When you're looking at things for catfish, in this example, when you're looking for things here, right? You're gonna go into your jig heads here. You're gonna have your fisheye jig heads. These are the ones that we use for catfish. You don't necessarily want the 4.0 because they're 68 grams, they're super heavy, and can be a bit of a struggle to get a jig step on lower speed reels. But these right here, these 3.0 jig heads, are the ones to go with. They're all the same strength, if I'm not mistaken. They're 77.5 kilos. So this 3.0 hook is what I use. I've got how many of them? 6 of them. Anyway, so that's the hook. You want to use the fisheye jig head 3.0s. Now for the setup for these, looking at a casting setup here, your entry level is going to be your Barracuda, 95 kilos. This rod, your biggest one, or really any rod over, 75 or 70 or over 80 kilos. I'd say 80 kilo minimum. Now these Barracudas are big and beefy. The reason why you wouldn't want this one at 96 kilos is it's got a bad test, so you got to keep test in consideration. But so for my casting setup, I have here the Barracuda casting rod, 95 kilos. Your next entry level would be the Rocket. Here, this one, at 89.9 kilos, 17.5 to 80 gram test. Yeah, so you're basically going to be looking at your Rocket or your Barracuda. Another style of rod you could do here is your jerk rods. Right? You can always go with an Ultima jerk rod. It's got 88 kilos of test, or of weight, so one of your Ultima jerk rods, 84 on that one. So basically, just go with the heaviest, honestly. Same thing goes for spinning rods as well, but so if you come here and look at your spinning rods, you have advents here. You can lock on an advent, really any rod, to be honest. As you can see, the load cap is 53 kilos, so not a catfishing rod again, but Barracuda. So your spinning rod, you're a little more limited. You got your Barracuda, obviously, 95 kilos. That's probably the go-to. They're a little bit flimsy, but they work. And your next one for spinning rod-wise after that is gonna be a or no, not a Troutmaster. I mean, it would be a Troutmaster, but the test is too late. So if I'm not mistaken, that's the only spinning rod over 70 kilos, isn't it? Well, Bexes are not very, yeah. So that's your only one over 70 kilos that has a high enough test to throw at the cat lures. So your next option would be the Ultima at 142 kilos, 136, or 125. But if you're going to buy an Ultima, you know, you might as well just go to the biggest one. It's also the longest and has the highest test. You really want this one because of the test. This one can't be. The Ultima S medium M870H can't be used. The test is too low. So all things considered, Ultima heavy is your best bet for spinning rods. And for casting rods, you really only have three. You got your Barracuda casting, your Rocket C, which is a little stiffer than Barracuda, but mostly the same. And you've got your Ultima casting, heavy, obviously. So that's rods out of the way. Now we're going to go look at reels. This is something different. We're going to look at classic casting reels here, the catfish reels. So you're starting off here with the Imperial, 16.5 kilo drag, friction, max drag. So when it says max drag, that is not its lock, right? There is a sheet here that I will post in the video description. But when I say max drag, I don't mean the max drag listed here. I mean the max drag of the mechanism itself before it breaks. Now, you know, I'm going to post this mega sheet. You can look at the reel, and anything that's listed there, not every reel is listed, but any reel that is listed there, you can see. I mean, they're all listed, but not all of them have a max drag. So I'm going to scroll down here to the classic bait casters and find the, what am I looking at here? The Imperial. We'll find the Imperial on this. I know you guys can't see this, but I just want to, if I'm not mistaken, Imperial should be down here somewhere. Alright, Imperial R600 has a 98 kg mechanism. So that's a reel. Your issue with this one is the line capacity. Another one you can go to is the steelness 60, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the steelness 60, if I can find it. So the steelness 60 has a 91 kg mech. You can use that, but again, your issue is going to be the line capacity on these reels mostly. The next thing up after that, really on regular casting reels, you can also use a spear. The spear has, where is it? Yeah, okay, so the spear has 97.5 mech. Yeah, so basically you can just look through this sheet, see what you want, but again, you also have to take into consider line capacity and that such. So Imperial is basically your starting, it's super cheap to repair, good reel to learn on, and it lasts a decent amount of time. Another great reel would be the Centauri. I mean, this thing has some pretty good line capacity. It's expensive, but aside from that, it's gotten 125 kilo max drag for the ZC80 and ZC80 line counter, which is another reason why I like this thing. It has a line counter on it. I don't have it, but I'm thinking about buying it as my next purchase. I would want to try it out myself. I have not personally used it. It's got a pretty good line capacity and such. So, yeah. And your next classic reel is gonna be your good old Rocket Jet. I mean, this thing is a beast, or at least it was. I mean, it works great. Obviously, it's got 126 kilo mech, but the issue with it that I'm told is that it wears relatively quickly. again, these are all pretty expensive reels at this point. Now, moving over to your conventional reels, these are all mostly going to be the same, right? So you got your Taiga C30. The reason why you want the Taiga C30 instead of the C40 is if you look at the test here, it's got a 54 gram test. The C40 has a 77 gram test, so casting heavy lures is an issue, or casting lures is an issue. The gear ratio on these things are very low, making jig stepping a little interesting, but overall it's a great catfish reel. It wears relatively slowly, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It has, the Taiga C30 has 109.46 rated mech weight, or max drag. And my current casting cardinal reel is, conventional catfishing reel is the Cardinal 20. It is a 27 gram test. The reason why you don't want the 30 is it's got a 56. And the 32 speed also has a 56, so you could use it, but again, it's 33 grand. And if we look at the Cardinal here, the only one listed on the sheet here is the Cardinal 20 at 132.62 kilos max drag. It's got very slow wear. It's solid reel. I'm still playing with the grease, trying to figure out that. The grease wears really slow with the grease that I got on it, but that's a whole nother issue on its own. Now your next reel that people use are not these Vangas because the test is just not good on them, right? They don't have great tests, but the next reel after the Cardinal is basically going to be your Triumph 30 here. 51 grams the test. Absolute freaking units of a reel. I mean, it's a Triumph, what do you expect? The 30 2-speed has a 405 kilo plus or minus 10, so it, 400 kilo, overpowered as all hell, expensive as all hell as well. So that's basically what you want for catfishing and that such, and locking. That's how that works. So you have your max drag, or your rated drag of 34 kilos, and you have your max drag of lock. So on 29 friction right now, this Cardinal is at, let's see, it's got an 8.2% mech, is at 6.8%. So assuming this was a brand new Cardinal, 0% everything, this Cardinal right here on 29 has 22 kilos of drag. When I scroll wheel up or increase my drag to show the infinite symbol or the lock symbol, it has now switched off the friction brake and is putting all of it onto the line or reel. And the reel of the Cardinal is 132.62 kilos. Meaning whatever is under that will break first. So in this scenario, right, with this setup, the Cardinal is 132. I have 110 line, a 95 kilo rod, so you'd think the 95 kilo rod would break first, but no, the jig head breaks first as it is 77.5 kilos, the hook breaks. The reason why I use 110 on the Cardinal is because, I got 180 meters of line, and that way I just don't have to replace it as much, basically. But you can use 84. It works the same. You get the same strength out of it. It's personal preference there. So that's the basic of it. You have your lock, your rated friction, you have your max drag, lockdown. Now, this is a little difficult here with the current state that the game is in, and I think I'm going to have to do a second part to this. Is if we come here to the weeklies, as you can see, Easter. Oh, hold on a minute. Easters are starting to come out somewhere, but of course, it's God knows where that is. I'll have to try to find this spot and see if I can't get a good biting Easter spot. And catfish are starting to come out. Good thing, I know where they are, and they are biting. Just not great, but they are coming out big. So, so with spinning rods, really you're just locking, and when you lock on a catfish setup, the thing that breaks will be the hook. Yeah. So it basically goes from the reel, right? So I'm not sure if you can straight rod spinning rods like you can with bottom rods. I'm pretty sure you can, but in this situation it would make no difference as all the strain is on the hook. You can read that with your tension bar to know what the strain is on by turning your rod, at least with a TI. Let's see if I have a TI here. So say this thing, I'll just cast it out here and show you this way. So, I mean, so basically the line will be like this, right? So, per se, rod is straight. In this situation, if I lock, all the strain is going to the reel. The rod is straight, all the strain is going to the reel. If I turn the rod to the side and put a bend in the rod, all the strain is going to the rod. But in this situation, with how I have this set up, which I will show this in another video, or another part, is, yeah, basically all the strain's going into the hook, because that's the weakest link. So, with the current state of the game, it's extremely difficult to show how to lock and how locking works with spinning rods, but basically that's the start of it. That's explaining right there. This is just explaining how the mech weight works and all that. So the lock is when you're infinite, and your rated drag of 22 kilos is on 29. If you lock your reel, you can preserve your friction brake, but you wear down your mech, and you gotta watch your mech percentage. And if you ever want to know when to stop fishing, so I'll use the Cardinal as an example. 132. We'll say it's 132, right? And I'm gonna subtract off. My Cardinal is at 8.2%, so I'm gonna subtract off 8.2%, and that makes it 121.176 kilos, so 120. So it's still relatively safe. If I subtract off 20% though, that makes it 105. It is still safe. If I subtract off 25%, 99, still safe. 30%, 92, still safe. If I subtract off 50% on the mech, it is 66. It is under the jig head. The reel will break. It is also under the rod. Reel will break. 40% for the Cardinal is 79 kilos, so basically 40% is the max I want to go, but I wouldn't recommend taking it that low. So, I mean, that's the basics of it. You just, you know, right there is the basics. You have your friction of 22 kilos. You have your mech on this reel specifically of 132 kilos. And when you lock, whatever the weakest link in your setup is, will break. So looking at this setup, my rod is 95 kilos. My line is 110. My reel is 132. 132. My reel is above everything. It will not break the line, or it will break the line and it will break the rod. Going down to the next thing. The line is above the rod, therefore the rod would break. But looking down at the bottom, at the hook is 77.5, therefore the hook will break, making this a safe setup. Now that is how to set up for catfishing and the basic description of locking to the best that I can describe in the moment. I'm actually going to start up a stream here, so if you're watching this video when I first put it out, by the time you watch this I will be live, and I will be catfishing and explaining, hopefully, if I hook a big one, how to lock catfish. Catfish are their own little beasts. They do their crazy turns sometimes they do nothing. They do, you know, they do all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, they're very unpredictable. Even when they're dead in a boat, it is still a little scary to pull up some of those 80s and 90s. They're just unpredictable. You just gotta be vigilant and be ready to react, basically is it. Locking with bottom rods, however, is a little bit different. I'll make a whole nother part to that, to this video on bottom rods. The concept is the same, weakest link breaks, but the actual locking itself is different. You can decide what breaks, basically. You can change where the stress goes, and you can change your tension, and there's more elements, basically, to locking with bottom rods than there is with spinning rods. So, I've spent near 500 hours into cats. I do not have a trophy. I'm just not yet. I'm gonna start the grind for that again. Actually, starting today. I am very motivated, and I will start doing that. But so this has been Unlucky with a basic introduction. Hopefully, it's in depth enough to locking spinning rods. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comments. I will answer them in the next video, live stream, or on the second part of this video, which I will make for locking with bottom rods. Anyway, guys, if you see this video, I should be streaming. So if I am, please stop by, say hello. If you have any questions, I'll answer them right then and there. Or I will answer them in the second part to this video. Thank you for watching, and see you guys in the next one. Good luck and have fun.